The following podcast is sponsored by Structure Tech.
We thought we'd recap a little bit about what the year was like here for Structure Tech. I think 2020 can go away as quickly as possible. Very much looking forward to 2021. Welcome everybody. You're listening to Structure Talk, a Structure Tech presentation. My name is Bill Ulrich alongside Tessa Murray and Ruben Saltzman. As always, say hi everybody.
Hey.
Three-legged stool.
Yes. The three-legged stool. It's wobbly. It's at the end of the year. It's taken a lot of use. So
It's still standing.
It's
Still
standing.
here.
Could use some glue, maybe some wire. But we're getting there. So we come to you today nearing the end of the year, as I've already indicated, right around the holidays. Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Happy Holidays, whichever applies to you. But we thought we'd recap a little bit about what the year was like here for Structure Tech. I think 2020 can go away as quickly as possible. Very much looking forward to 2021. Ruben, how do you feel about it?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, that's kind of the cliche right now. Like everybody's like, yeah, good riddance. And January 1st is going to be here and it's going to be a whole new year and everything's going to change suddenly. No, it's going to be just like 2020 when we wake up on January 1st. Nothing is going to be different at all. There's going to be some changes that happen. But I mean, when I look back on this year, it's like, yeah, there's some crappy stuff that happened. But at the same time, there's a lot of good stuff that happened this year. I mean, I have so much to be thankful for. There's a lot of good that came out of this year. I guess that's kind of what we're going to kind of cover today, right?
Yeah. Tess, I want to get you on board here right now. How are you feeling about this conversation?
2020 it's been a difficult year. And I think it's been a difficult year for everybody. And there are parts of it that I am ready to move on from. But at the same time, like Ruben said, it's kind of a love-hate relationship because I think this year, it was revealed to me a lot of things that I wasn't even aware of that personally I could work on. So kind of just some self-awareness and some personal growth and some spiritual growth. But then also too with the business, I feel like this year was really transformational for us and how we do things and what we do and where we're going. And I don't think we would have got to that point of self-reflection unless we had this pandemic that happened. I'm feeling grateful. I'm trying to feel grateful too, even though it's been really challenging and I'm pretty exhausted.
All of us can appreciate the fact that even though 2020 was a very challenging year, we've been busy all year.
Yeah.
And there's something really to be grateful about because there's a lot of people who cannot say the same thing. So it's with full appreciation that we are in the business that we are in, which allowed us to stay busy all year. Good insight. Gratitude's an important thing. I'll kick it off. Besides the fact that I got knocked out of my fantasy football league without making the playoffs, that was a major disappointment. But that aside, I actually think 2020 was one of the most life-changing years of all time. And I think you've already alluded to it a little bit, Tessa, but I personally have learned a ton about myself as well. And as we move forward, it's just like, I'm excited, but I'm so happy to have gone through this process. Just from a business perspective, like you said, we can list off 30 things that we are doing differently today than what we were doing on January 1st, 2020. I think they're all positive movements too. I think it's all been good. So with that change, though, came a lot of chaos.
Oh my goodness.
Yes. Yeah. Change is not easy. Yeah.
So what do you think was the hardest pill to swallow or the thing that caused the most chaos?
In my mind, I think changing home inspection report software was one of the biggest waves here at Structure Tech. That was a big deal.
For sure.
What do you think, Tess?
Yeah, I would agree with that. I kind of think with that too, and this isn't like one thing, but this is just a gradual process of changing kind of the business structure. Like, I guess the different positions within the company, how changes occur, who implements them, who does what, like all of those changes have kind of really, I think, taxed us this year too, internally.
And to touch on that, I mean, we have basically an entirely new leadership team here at Structure Tech. Malind kind of got tired of being the inspector manager, of overseeing all of the inspectors, and it really wasn't working well with him on work-life balance. And he said, Ruben, I want to step down. We got to change this. And we had hired on Eric Hausman about, I don't know, 18 months ago or so. I mean, he's one of the newest inspectors on our team, but I had worked with him at Home Depot like 20 years ago or something. And he was a rock star then. And we stayed in contact with each other and eventually convinced him to start working at Structure Tech. And when Malin was ready to step down, he was kind of the first person that we thought of. I mean, I discussed it with Malin. I said, right away, okay, you don't want to do this anymore. Who would you have do it? And it was like, well, Eric, right away. And so I ended up moving Eric over into that position. We have a new inspector manager. And then this was the year to add an operations manager, and thought we had that all lined up internally. Things happened. It didn't work out internally. So we went external, and now we have an operations manager. We got to get her on the podcast, Jenny Risling. Yeah, she should come on here sometime.
2021.
Yeah, exactly. But she's a rock star. She comes from the real estate world. She managed, I don't know, like 40 real estate offices, and she's a huge asset to our team. But she's new. She's only been here for probably 2 months or so now. So we have a new operations manager, and now we have a growth division as well. We took Lisa, who was a client care coordinator, the longest client care coordinator we've had. She's been with us since, I don't know, 2011, 2012, and moved her over to a growth role, or agents relation manager. And that's all she's doing now, is establishing and maintaining relationships with real estate agents. I mean, that's it. So it's like we've got a bunch of and then there's you, Tess. I almost forgot about you. You used to be a home inspector.
Feels like forever ago. Yeah.
I know that you were inspecting houses earlier this year, right?
Yeah, I was. Yeah.
My goodness, that seems like you're right.
I know.
So what are you
lifetime
doing
ago.
now? Put it in your own words.
Yeah, now I guess I am in charge of finding the right people to add to the team as home inspectors. So kind of some of that's recruiting, the hiring of them, and then also developing the training of these home inspectors, and basically kind of doing a complete overhaul on our training process. And so developing curriculum and this whole new process. And I've got a lot of help from people on the team, though. I cannot take credit for that. I mean, 100% credit. I've got Eric Hausman, who's been a huge help in getting the training program where it is today. And Neil, your dad, oh my gosh, we could not have, done this training without Neil. And shout out to Pete, if he's listening to, being our first guinea pig with the new process when we launched it during the middle of the pandemic. So we've learned a lot this year, and it's only getting better. But that kind of been the primary focus this year. So definitely been a huge shift for me as well.
Can I toot your horns a little bit, just because we had so many conversations about changing up our training process. And I remember us talking about, is it possible to go from this to that? And the idea was, oh boy, I don't know. I don't know if we can squish it down. Well, we've squished it down to what we had talked about, and then squished it even further. And it's really amazing. I feel I'm going to steal this from an interview that I heard on the Service Titan podcast called Tools of the Trade. But there's an HVAC contractor out in LA who's just growing an amazing business. And he was like, I figured out how to compress time. And I feel like 2020 has been an exercise in compressing time. And for us specifically, we compressed just the whole planning of redesigning our training program, and then got to work even more. And I take no credit for any of this, because I basically stood by and watched you guys all do it. But I was a big cheerleader for it. I'll
jump in and say, no, you were pushing this the entire time, Bill. So
well, it's because
I'm not going to let you just slip that by.
Well,
yeah, Bill, you are the orchestration behind all of this, a lot of it, I would say.
Well, not entirely true, but Ruben has a word for me that we pulled out of the latest book we've read together, Traction. But basically, I walk around with my head firmly stuck in the clouds all the time. I'm a dreamer. It's who I am.
He's called the Luftmensch.
Yes.
There's nothing wrong with that. And that's such a valuable skill to have and a gift to have, really, to be able to kind of see things from that higher perspective.
Well, thank you. But we're going to give full credit to Gino Wickman and the wonderful book he wrote called Traction. So I finally have the proper title. I've been searching for a title for years, and he gave it to me. So thank you, Gino. I really, really appreciate it. But, that was a big step for us. And that feels like a ton of work. I mean, we completely turned our service delivery mechanism inside out.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I just look and see how much change has happened over the course of, it's actually 9 months. It's not even a full year. It's like 8.5 months, actually, because we're talking before the end of the year. So fun and scary and exciting, but you can't throw enough props out to the team. They absolutely adjusted on the fly. And there's a certain personality type that's really good at inspecting, and they had to make some serious adaptations. And I'm not saying that everything was perfect, but wow, we pushed everybody to the limits. It's been a fun year. It's been fun to see what's possible when you're scared to death. Like the state starts shutting down and we're asking, are we essential? Are we not essential? Do sellers want us in their house? And lo and behold, just everybody marched forward. Because I think in Minnesota, we get 2.5 months of good weather, and they weren't going to let a good real estate season grind to a halt because of virus.
Yeah, it's crazy. I'm looking at a graph here. We keep track of this. We go in and we graph this every couple of months, comparing our number of home inspections against the number of pending sales for our market. And when I'm looking at the number of pending sales, we had like the highest number of pending sales in any month since we started keeping this information. Like the market was crazy this year for houses. And, the theory that I hear everybody saying is, yeah, it's because people were stuck in their houses and they couldn't live in their house anymore and they needed to upgrade. That may have been a big driver. But the one thing that kind of sticks out to me is that we only added one more inspector this year. And then we took Tessa off the calendar, off the schedule entirely. So it was basically a net zero. And this was a new guy who didn't finish his training until, mid-year or whatever. So we were almost down for inspectors, and
your dad too. Sorry to interrupt, but
you're right. Yeah. And so really our market share dropped this year because we couldn't keep up with demand. While the number of inspection needs kept increasing, we could not keep up with that this year. So our market share actually dropped this year, not by a lot, but just by a little, despite the fact that we did more inspections this year than we ever have. I mean, we have surpassed 2019's inspections. So it was a great year, but we lost market share.
So capacity wise, we're up, but market share, we're down a little bit. But that just speaks to the strength of the market.
Yeah.
That's here.
Yeah.
Yep, exactly. And we're hoping to not have that happen next year. Next year, we're going to be making way less changes. It has to be less changes because we really stressed our team. That's one of our core values at Structure Tech is change. But maybe I should rethink one of those core values. I don't know. When we
healthy change.
Healthy change. Yeah. When we look at what all of the inspectors on our team deal well with, change really isn't one of them.
I think that's a human component, Ruben. I don't think it's unique to inspectors or
you're probably right.
Yeah, it's hard for everybody. I think some people might embrace it a little bit more than others, but it's hard for everybody.
Yeah, but
so Tessa, don't forget to hand out your email so anybody who's interested in doing home inspections who might want to work for Structure Tech can get a hold of you.
Yes, Tessa@structuretech.com. Shoot me an email if you're interested in becoming a home inspector. We're always looking for good people. You can also go to our website, structuretech.com, and go to our employment page and apply there.
Scroll all the way down to the bottom of the homepage. There's a link for employment. And we got lots of information about who we are. There's a application process, a behavioral assessment that you have to take as part of the application process. It's pretty cool. And that's all stuff that we started doing this year.
Yeah.
We had nothing like this in the past.
A few months now, I guess.
Yeah.
That's another one of those conversations I remember having coming back when I first saw these tools. And I'm like, Ruben, we have to look at this. He's like, I don't know about that. because we got comfortable with the way things were being done. And I'm like, no, we got to look at this. And then we're here. And I don't want to say that I had total influence because Tessa, you went through the same training and you saw the same tools and you're like, oh my goodness, this is really, really interesting.
Yeah. And what
Okay.
we're talking about is a hiring process through this training put on by kind of I don't know, almost like a sister company to IEB. We've talked about IEB, Inspector Empire Builder, many times on this podcast. And one of the owners there has another company called Bergflow, and he puts on this training called Pivot Ready Teams. I'm sure we've talked about it on this podcast, but the way I sum it up, it's basically a world-class training program, hiring and training and recruiting program. It's a way to find good employees and screen people out. And that's what we're using now. It's pretty awesome. Pivot Ready Teams.
Yeah. And these conversations that you're having with potential employees are really powerful. And I remember we were talking about this and you're like, I would never answer any question like that. Now you're asking the questions and people are happy to answer them because you care. Like you want to know what makes somebody tick.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you don't know that, how do you know if they're really going to fit well into this job? And you get to peel back the layer of human beings. And it's such a powerful process. I should let you talk about it. You're the one who does it all.
No, I mean, what you said is perfect. And I think it really is, this hiring process it's changed completely from what we used to do before Pivot Ready Teams and the AccuMax and everything. And we really are trying to see who someone is, at their core and learn what their natural strengths are. And we want them to get to know our company as well at the same time to make sure that it's a good fit for both. It's mutually beneficial. It's a huge shift in what we used to do, but I really enjoy that process. I think it's really fun going a little bit deeper and getting to know people and helping our company grow, I think, in a sustainable, healthy way.
Let's just clarify one thing. So any home inspection company that might be listening, if they're like, what are they talking about? How do I get a hold of these tools? The first thing I would say is get a hold of IEB, iebcoaching.com, because they've got rights to these platforms in terms of being able to use these fancy tools that we're talking about. So the conversation starts down there in the exact same way that Ruben started.
But Bill, if I can jump in, I mean, it's the Pivot Ready Teams is not just for home inspectors. He offers that to any company. So if you're in any type of trade and you're in the business of hiring people and you're looking for a world-class method for screening out people and hiring better people, check it out.
Absolutely. So that's the fork in the road. So if you're a home inspection company, you call IEB and you talk with Dirk and Greg. Actually, you talk with Mark Hummel. If you're any other service company, then you want to be reaching out to Bergflow and speak with Dirk. So awesome tools. It's been a fun year to dig through this amazing toolbox and deploy all these systems and go for it. Okay, so what are you most excited about for 2021?
For me, there's something we've been working on. It feels like almost all year. And we've talked a little bit about it on this podcast. When everything shut down, we couldn't teach classes in person anymore. We had to go online. And when we first started doing it online, it was like we signed up for a 250 person Zoom account. And I thought, we're never going to have 250 people signing up, but we'll do this just in case so we don't run out of room. Well, boom, 250 people signed up just like that. Just like nothing. And so that was totally overwhelming.
Yeah.
It was probably a mistake. It is so difficult to try to teach to 250 people at once because the comments come in way faster than you can possibly answer them. I mean, we could spend the entire class time simply answering the first round of questions, and that would be the whole class. So it's pretty crazy trying to teach that many people. But Tessa and I taught thousands of real estate agents in a couple months period, and it was good. We reached a lot of people, but we realized we need to change. We really need to go to an on-demand format if we're going to keep offering these classes. So once it got to the end of the training session here in Minnesota, everybody's got to have their continuing education done by, I don't know, sometime in June, I believe. And that's where we wrapped up our training. And then our goal was to get on-demand training available to real estate agents in the fall. Well, that process took way longer than we thought it would, and we still don't have it completed yet. We're in the final stages. It all needs to be approved by the state. And during the very last round of approvals, we submitted our finals. It's all supposed to be totally done. And there was these thumbnails where the screenshot did not refresh properly, even though we had updated our videos. And the state saw the old thumbnails and they denied them all. And they're like, dummies, you still haven't fixed your video. And it was just, it was so frustrating. But as it stands, by the time you listen to this podcast, I fully expect everything to be approved, and real estate agents will be able to take continuing education classes on demand on our website. We're charging $5 per hour of education. We have 5 different classes available, ranging from 1 to 4 hours, 1 to 3.75 hours in length, for a total of almost 11 hours of content. And I guarantee, Bill, we've been beta testing this with a bunch of different agents just to get their feedback on it. And everybody says these are the best CE classes they have ever attended. There's nothing that compares to this. So we are guaranteeing you take this class, you will learn stuff, you will enjoy it. And if you don't, you can have your money back, and I'll still enter your CE credit into the system and you'll still get credit for it. It's the same guarantee that we make for our home inspections. So it is going to be awesome. I cannot wait. It really should be live by the time that you hear this podcast. So Bill, I am super excited about that. That's my answer for 2021.
Awesome. So you're leveling up the agent knowledge when it comes to houses. Are you making structure tech irrelevant now? I mean, can agents just go in and do their own home inspection after going through your training classes online?
They'll be a lot better at figuring out what's going on. They will be much better able to serve their clients once they go through these classes. I mean, it's going to put them in rare air compared to people who haven't gone through this or don't have a background in any of this, especially for agents just getting into this business. But I'll tell you, all those people I had beta testing these classes were veterans. These are people who have been in real estate for 10, 20, 30 years. And they said it's some of the best stuff they've ever taken. So it doesn't matter what your experience level is. I guarantee you're going to learn stuff out of these classes.
Well, that's awesome. And as a person who holds a real estate license in the state of Minnesota, I've been a part of many a continuing ed class, and oftentimes they are not the most exciting thing in the world. So it's always fun to learn.
These
learning.
will be, man. These will be exciting.
Okay, so you tore down your report writing system. You completely changed how you inspect houses. And we didn't change how we inspect houses, but we certainly changed how we interact with the client on the day of the inspection. We changed how we hire and train. And then you added a full line of online CE classes in 8.5 months.
We launched a new website this year. Let's not forget that. We switched over from WordPress to Squarespace. Now, unless you really know websites, that doesn't mean anything to you. But the one thing that's very visible, it's a whole new look for our website. The look is gorgeous. It's a nice layout. I love it. The one thing I don't like is the platform. I hate Squarespace. And I know a bunch of good people who use Squarespace and they love it and their websites are set up on it, and good for you. I think that's wonderful. I'm glad you got something you like, but I couldn't hate it anymore. And we are paying a boatload of money to have our website completely redone, have it put back onto WordPress. And it should be done within a couple of weeks. Odds are, if this goes like any other website relaunch that we've ever done, it means that our website is going to be completely crashed. It's going to be down. Nothing's going to work. And I'm going to pull out my hair for several weeks. I expect that's how it's going to go. So I'm dreading another website relaunch, but it's all going to be worth it when it's done.
Bill, did you mention the fact that we've hired 4 home inspectors this year too? I don't know if we've ever had a year we've hired that many new home inspectors. Have we?
No, we have not.
Yeah. So
and I've thrown out the gauntlet for next year. I think it's 21 or 22 that we're going to bring on board.
I don't know. We'll see about that. But yeah, it'll hopefully be more than 4.
Ruben, I have to ask you about something that kind of came to an end this year. Can you share? After
Yes.
how many years? After how
Whatever
many
it is,
years?
I'll share.
Yeah, no, your blog is always going to be your blog. But where the
Yes.
blog all began
Mhm.
is sort of fading, right?
I'll tell you, I was blogging before that. Here's the
Okay.
history of the blog. I had a real estate agent, Charlene Hensrud, ask me if I would blog on her site. So I said, yeah, sure. I don't know what a blog is exactly, and I don't know what I'm going to write about. And she gave me a few ideas, and we both chuckle about that now, like 1,000 blogs later. But I started blogging on her site, and then I realized that she's getting all the Google credit. So I started blogging on my site, and I started blogging on this real estate site called Active Rain. And I'd get like 100 comments on some blog posts because they'd get featured there. And that was kind of where I cut my teeth in blogging and developing a bit of a skin for comments and realizing that I had to keep it a lot tighter. So that trained me a lot over about a year of blogging on that site. And eventually I had a buddy who now works for Structure Tech, Peter Schilling, who's a writer, said, you need to blog on the Star Tribune. This is good stuff. And I kept bugging the folks at the Star Tribune and eventually started blogging there almost 10 years ago now. And this year it came to an end. I got a notice from them saying, hey, we're eliminating all outside blogs. And of course, I'm like, what did I do wrong? I'll change. I'll do better.
Conversation at the end of a relationship.
Exactly. And they said, it's not you, it's us, of course. and that was that. So my last post on the Star Tribune was mid-December, I think. It was just a goodbye. Like, thanks for the memories. That's about it. But you know what? On the other hand, I've always thought for these last 10 years, I've always thought, is this worth it? Because a lot of the time when I Google a topic and I'm trying to find an answer to something and I know that I already wrote about it, I'll type in whatever I think my headline was. And half the time, the first thing that comes up is not our website, but the Star Tribune website. So it's good exposure, but at the same time, it's taking people who would be on our site to the Star Tribune instead. So now we're keeping all of that Google juice for ourselves. So it's bittersweet, it's okay.
And the press passes to the Twins and the Vikings and the Wild. Those are all gone now too.
Yeah, right. No, that was not a paid position. I was a freelance blogger. Yep.
Hey, I mean, think of your life. I mean, this is a little bit of a dramatic comment, but I think it changed the trajectory of the whole company, right? When the Star Tribune kind of came into your universe.
Probably so. I mean, at the time when I was doing that, it was like 2011. It was me, my dad, Dwayne, and Malind. I mean, it was just the four of us, and we were growing at that time. Who knows what the cause was? Yeah. There's so many things we've done over the years. So I don't know. I definitely know that people read it. And I'd always have people talking about me having a column in the Star Tribune. And I always chuckled because it's like, I think of a column as you're in print. I've never been in print, but it still felt nice to hear that.
So that never ended up in the physical paper. It was always just the online version.
That's right. At one point, many years ago, they tried to do that. And they took one of my blog posts and they chopped it up. They totally changed it and they rephrased everything and they totally changed the meaning. Like they wanted to use better words. And I just said, no, I'm not interested in this. After one look at how they changed it, said, no can do. We're sticking with online. So I know I would have had more readership that way too, but it just wasn't worth it. It was way too aggravating.
Your first and last editor, one call.
Right, exactly. Yeah, that didn't work out.
So anything else you want to bring to the forefront?
We've talked about all the big changes this year. We really couldn't have gotten to where we're at today if it wasn't for this amazing team that we have at Structure Tech. And so I just want to do a quick shout out to some of the people. We haven't even mentioned their names yet, but we couldn't have done it without them. I mean, just starting with the client care coordinators, Trina and Kim, our new client care coordinators this year, they're really helping us out. And the training of them too has been huge. So everyone that helped with training them, I'm thinking Peter, he's another client care coordinator, but he's helping with some diversity and recruiting and all of that too. So thank you so much for that. We've got Brian, who, oh my gosh, has been so helpful with helping manage those online real estate education classes that Ruben and I did this summer and this fall with 250 real estate agents on a class. We could not have managed that many people without him, and also all the work he's put into making these on-demand CE classes available too. So Brian, thank you so much.
And Robin's help with all those online classes.
I almost forgot.
Goodness.
And Robin too. Yeah, we couldn't have done it without Robin. All the work that Eric has done this year too, with helping with training and complaints, and Malin's help with all of that too, and complaints and
Nobody ever
leadership stuff.
complains.
We
Come
don't have any
on.
complaints. Yeah, we're perfect. Oh my gosh. Neil with the training. We already talked about all the help he's been with the training process too. Shout out to our new inspectors. We've got Pete, we've got Eric, we've got DJ and Andy, who are being guinea pigs for this new training process. Our team leads in the company that are helping develop our processes and our communication and making us better and offering support to their teammates and leadership. And then even our radon technicians too. Shout out to Bethany. Ruben, you can speak more to what she's working on.
Goodness, yeah. Well, and we got 3 radon techs. We got Bethany and Rick and John, but Bethany has been working on rolling out these new monitors. We ordered all new radon monitors this year. I did not want to change monitors. We've been using the same radon monitors since 1992 or something. I don't know how long, but they're super old. I mean, they run off a 9-pin serial cable, and we're finally giving those up, and we're stepping into the modern age with these new monitors. We ordered 50 of them, and then it was a big pain in the butt getting the state to approve the new reports. And Bethany has been fighting that battle and trying to get all these things into the field. It's been a lot of work. So we appreciate all of her work in that department as well.
Awesome.
You know what, you guys, we forgot to mention George. Oh my gosh. George has taken on the challenging task of switching softwares. So thank you so much, George, for all your hard work.
George stayed home for like months doing nothing but working on that software. That was a labor of love. If you want to hear more about that, George and I just did a podcast with Spectora. That's the people who offer that software. It was a long one. It was like an 80-minute podcast or something. And we talked about all things structure tech and home inspections and software. Good podcast. And we talked about a lot of people on the team. So if you Google Spectora podcast, it's one of the last ones to show up in December. That was a good one.
Yeah,
Did you
that was
walk them
really
through what it means to go from the old software, which will remain unnamed, to this new platform and the steps and the
It
challenges?
wasn't
and all
a
that?
step-by-step tutorial, but we did share some of the pains. Yeah,
good. Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah. That
Are
was
you
good.
suggesting that it wasn't just seamless? It didn't just like,
That would have been nice. That would have been nice.
Yeah.
well,
Yeah.
listen,
Yeah.
we couldn't go without saying thank you to everybody who's helped us in this podcasting journey too. If it were just us 3 talking all the time, people would probably turn off, but we've had great contributors to the podcast, just industry experts, people who know a lot more about a lot of things than I'll ever pretend to know.
And great
Go ahead.
producing. Producer
Yeah.
Larry. Huge shout out to producer Larry. I mean, he takes all of our coughs and our oops, I shouldn't have said that, and all that stuff, and he cleans us all up.
Ruben, all of your swear words.
Oh
he
my
bleeps them out.
goodness, do I curse like a sailor or what, Tess? Yes. Yeah.
So officially, at what number are we at?
For podcasts?
Yeah.
I'd say right around 75 podcasts, something very close to that.
Wow.
Awesome. It's one of these things that drips out over time. It's like the blog, right? You start doing it and eventually you look back and it's all grown up. Your blog is graduating from high school.
Yeah, exactly. If you read the book, The Slight Edge, I love that book. I've given that book away to a lot of people. It's these little efforts made continually over time that add up to a ton of returns, just like compound interest. Another book called The Compound Effect. It's a lot like that. You stick with it and you do it over and over again, and it pays off. This hasn't paid off yet. The podcast hasn't paid off, but we've got 75 episodes recorded.
Personally, I feel like I've learned so much from doing this, and all the experts we've had on.
Yes.
Great information and knowledge. So yeah.
Yes. Even if nobody listens and nobody cares, we get value out of this, don't we?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Yes, we get to go to school once a week. Yeah, but thank you, Andy and Andy Schrader, John Williamson, Ross Anderson. I mean, I'm trying to think of all the people, and I'm going to fall flat on my face trying to drop names. But thank you to everybody who just, gave us some time. We really, really appreciate it. Ruben, I don't want to drop off without handing you the baton, because I know this year you've changed up the charitable donations. You always do something at Structure Tech, but this year it's been a little bit different. So can you kind of just share with everybody the things that you've moved towards?
We've given quite a bit of money to quite a few different organizations this year. One was Wounded Warrior Project. We teamed up with the folks at All Around, and they got a big check at the end of a big day of paintball that we did with them. That was a lot of fun. That's one of my highlights of the year, is doing paintball with the guys and all the vendors at the All Around radio show. That's a blast. So Wounded Warrior Project. Another one was the Edina Realty Foundation, and they're all about providing local housing. They're trying to help people get into houses here. So that's something that is very near and dear to our heart as home inspectors. And Coldwell Banker Cares is a very similar foundation, which we had a matching contribution to that organization this year as well. It's all about getting people into houses. And then we also had a big donation to a COVID-19 response. So that's what we did this year. And that's something that everybody on the team can rally behind.
Awesome. Well, I think we should put a wrap on this episode. This is coming to you just before Christmas. So let me be the first to say of this three-legged stool, Merry Christmas. And thanks for tuning in. We appreciate the support, and we appreciate the comments, and we appreciate being able to do this on a daily basis. So thank you, everybody who's listening. We will catch you next time, and enjoy the holiday.
For more information on how we can provide you with the right information about your home before you buy or sell, contact us at structuretech.com.